anyone that's had to sit through one of my various unsuccessful selection attempts, you've probably heard me talk a lot about buses before, so I'm going to try not talk too much about buses today. But I want you to cast your minds back, for people in the room who are old enough like me, to remember when Boris was mayor and his record on transport. Because actually what we had with Boris as mayor was an ambitious mayor who realised that cities are built on their transport networks, and you need a working transport network for those cities to thrive. Unfortunately, Sadiq Khan comes across as he could not be less interested in transport, less interested in a working transport system for our city. And that comes across in his complete lack of ambition. And that is really encapsulated in the Superloop. The Superloop has been good for Outer London in connecting some of these places up, but he's completely missed the point of what he's meant to be achieving. I mentioned in my earlier part about the fact that I represent a semi-rural seat. And there are rural communities like Biggin Hill in my constituency that have one road in and one road out. There's Orpington that has very little bus services, again, surrounded by fields and countryside. Yet the Superloop goes nowhere near these towns. The people hit hardest by ULEZ, and he introduced Superloop because he said that was how he was going to counter some of the criticism of ULEZ. He does not touch the communities hardest hit by it. And all the travel projects delayed under him. The 358, this is the 358 bus in Bromley. This is going to be an all-electric bus. It's going to be powered either end. It's a complete piece of innovation. It's nearly 2 years late, and we still can't understand why. It seems to be that TfL didn't quite understand some land ownership. That seems to be what we're getting, but the mayor and his team are quite secretive when we ask him. We all know Crossrail. It was on time and on budget under Boris, handed over to Sadiq Khan, and it's nearly 2 years late and millions of pounds over. The Central Line, new equipment not coming in. Those trains are not working. They are basically cannibalising themselves at the moment. The Bakerloo Line extension is all but dead because the mayor has not built the case for it. So, and then we've got the war on motorists. Because when you talk to Sadiq Khan about why all his transport projects are falling apart, he'll tell you that he needs more money from central government, because he won't do what needs to be done in terms of fares, because he'd rather play political games with the financing of TfL than actually fund these projects. But when it comes to the Blackwall and Silvertown Tunnel, he subscribes to the ideas that those using the infrastructure should pay for it. But he doesn't apply, he's happy to wage those levies on drivers, but he's not happy to do the same with transport upgrades. And only a couple of weeks ago, I asked him in his commission about the Rotherhithe Tunnel. I said, are you going to introduce tolls on the Rotherhithe Tunnel? And his commissioner turned around and said, no, we have no plans to. And I'd like to remind you, he had no plans to extend ULEZ either. But then his commissioner took a breath and listed 3 or 4 reasons in which tolls at Rotherhithe could then be introduced. And that's the problem here, is once again, we're seeing a 2-tier model to how we fund our transport infrastructure upgrades. We desperately need these upgrades, and we need the mayor to get a grip on these upgrades. So I know my subject is keeping London moving. The problem is that the current mayor is not keeping London moving.
Thanks, Tom.